everyone, it's Andrew Marin. I'm coming to you from 30,000 feet in the air on a United plane, and I'm flying back to Washington, D.C. I spent the last 27 hours there, and it was just such a crazy trip. I got to meet and make presentations to the White House Office of Faith-Based and Community Partnerships, the State Department's Bureau of Human Rights, and the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Justice and Human Rights. And it was just kind of bonkers for me sitting in the room there with them, making these presentations about principles that I've learned over the last decade, working with opposing communities that are fighting to dictate cultural normalcy, and what does it like to seek peace and seek reconciliation in these very contentious issues, specifically the ones surrounding faith and sexuality. And so over this last 24-hour span, there's something that's clearly been running through my head, because in sitting in those rooms with these elected officials and these government agents and, people who run the world, I was like, what the heck am I doing here? I'm just a dude from the north side of the city of Chicago in a little basement office who lives in the neighborhood for 10 years, who's trying to just love his neighborhood. And it just blows my mind what happens when people do just commit to love their neighborhoods. Because from what I'm learning from the stuff that we have done with the United Nations to the stuff that we have been doing with these different federal government things, I mean, obviously few and far in between. There aren't a lot of people who commit to the love their neighborhood. It seems like so many people want to write books, and they want to be national leaders, and they want to speak all over the place and do these things, but I think the disconnect is that they're not making an impact in their backyard, and that's why it's so hard for them to go and tell someone else, like, oh, here's what you should do. And so in this last 24 hours, there's something that has really stuck out to me and been clear. Dr. John Perkins, who's a civil rights leader, founder of the Christian Community Development Association, lives in Jackson, Mississippi. I was down there with him a few years ago and to do some work. And so when I flew in there, he's like, oh, you want to see where it all started and where it all happened? I was like, yeah. So he took me to this like little shack looking place, and he's like, here it is. And I was like, oh, so this is where you started. Where's everything else? He's like, nope, this is it. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, you're a huge dude. Like, everyone knows who you are, and you've made a gigantic impact and left a lasting footprint, a huge footprint on this country, and fighting for rights of African Americans and all these other things. And I just, this is it. I was expecting something gigantic, because a lot of what our society puts forth today is that if you're deemed an important person or you're a famous person, you're going to have something huge. And Dr. Perkins looked me dead in the eye. He said, Andrew, the point of a leader is not to raise up national leaders. The point of a leader is to raise up people who want to love their neighborhood. And if you love your neighborhood well, other things are going to come from that. And that just floored me. And it completely reoriented my whole understanding about, what it means to be a quote-unquote success, or what it means to make an impact, or what it means to make a leader. And I took that thing to heart. And from that point forward, it's never been my goal to be a national leader. It's never been my goal to be anybody other than a guy who lives in a 1 square mile radius called Boys Town in Chicago, Illinois, the zip code 60613. And I love the heck out of that neighborhood. And it's more difficult, what I've learned, to love the heck out of 60613 than it is to love someone halfway across the world. Because there's not much accountability halfway across the world, and there's a whole heap of it back in your own neighborhood. And the one lesson that I've learned throughout all of this is when you make an impact in your neighborhood, when you seek peace, when it is productive, when reconciliation of the things that have been disconnected does happen, it makes an impact. It makes a lasting impact, not just in 60613, but it makes a lasting impact all the way to the White House. And so I just want this time to be an encouragement for us, because so many people look at a lot of what the Marin Foundation has been able to do and what the Lord has given us, and they're like, oh my goodness, how in the world am I ever going to build something big or build something like that? Dude, we're this tiny little organization that are in a basement that has a $150,000 a year budget, period, for everything. Here I was these last 27 hours at the White House giving presentations, and at the State Department and all this other crazy stuff, and people are looking to me of principles that I've learned of engagement, because as they said, you don't find many people who know how to love their neighborhood well, and we can learn from that. So, praise be to the Lord on all of this stuff, and we're just trying to be faithful and see what happens. But let us remember, just like Dr. Perkins said, it's not about raising national leaders. It's not about me being a national leader. That's never been my goal, and I hope for other people who are national leaders or other people are aspiring for that stuff, like, that's not your goal. Your goal should always be to love your neighborhood, because that's where the credibility is. My name is Andrew, and I'm from 60613.